Hello relatives, welcome to this week's Schlagbyte for the week October 8th, 2007, entitled Lying Down with Sandy. I spent last weekend in bed with my wife's cousin, Sandy, a 61-year-old woman with end-stage Parkinson's disease. Her memory was failing, her body was shaking, sometimes it was frozen, she was having difficulty swallowing. And last week she refused a feeding tube, saying that she did not want to be kept alive this way. It took her a week to waste away. The last 5 days, she was completely unconscious. I knew Sandy as a child at family gatherings, but got to know her well when she moved in with us as an 18-year-old. She came to Santa Fe after she'd been banished by her family. She never had an easy life. She stayed with us a couple of years, during which we came to love one another as real family. She married her childhood sweetheart, a good, sweet man who shared her difficult history, and he has been devoted to her almost 40 years. We have together shared in the loss of parents and children, and Elaine and I wanted to say goodbye to her while she was still alive, even if she was unconscious. One is never quite prepared to see a loved one comatose, staring, open-eyed, looking like a skeleton. For 2 days, her husband, daughter, Elaine, and I lay by her side at one time or another. I told her stories, recalled incidents, revisited the places we'd been. And sometime during this time, her husband came in and he looked at Sandy and said, "Isn't she beautiful? Look at her skin, it's still flawless." I didn't know what he saw, because to me she looked like a Holocaust victim. But the longer I lay by her side, the longer I felt her warmth, the tremor of her aliveness, and talked with her, the more beautiful she became. I saw the feisty teenager who hid behind the bushes with my daughters, ready to ambush me with a garden hose. I saw that furious teenager who reamed me out once after I locked her out for a curfew violation. I sang to her. I watched her beloved Chihuahua jump on the bed to lick her hands and lips. And in time, when I looked at her, I could hear her voice, feel her aliveness, and I no longer saw her wasted body. In that moment, I came to peace with one of my greatest fears, and that is dying ugly. That is, to approach death mentally and physically incompetent, in helpless dependency. My fantasy has always been that, like some Apache warrior of old, who, when it was clear he could no longer keep up with the tribe, would simply walk away from the encampment to find a good place to die and sing his death song. My love for Sandy was so far beyond her wasted body that it made me think that even in my decrepitude, I would not have to separate myself from those I love. The Zulu call such an intense, loving relationship Ubuntu, and it means I am because you are. When you love somebody that way, you always see them as beautiful. On her last night, her husband and daughter painted her fingernails red, and I held her hand and we danced. I hummed the tunes, described the house on Spruce Street where we first danced, and I laughed. Even if my fate leaves me a wasted shell, and not the self-inflated warrior of my imagination, I want to say I'll be happy beyond all words if I'm dancing with my Ubuntu. I am because you are. Those are my thoughts for this week. Stay in touch on the Healing Cafe. Let me know what you're thinking. And for those of you interested in healing, both yourselves and others, the workshop from November 28th to December 1st still has some slots. I encourage you to look on the website. Have a great week. I say this for all of my relations. Mitakuye.